Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Mayuk Mukherjee, Assistant Professor of Pharmacology, and in this video I am going to discuss antiretroviral agents and treatment of HIV infection. I have made this presentation based on information available in Goodman-Gilman's latest textbook of pharmacology, and this video is made for second professional MBBS students. This presentation can be broadly divided into three parts. First, I would like to discuss about human immunodeficiency virus, how it causes infection in our body. Then I would like to discuss what are the principles of treatment of HIV. And finally, I would like to cover antiretroviral agents individually. Human immunodeficiency virus belongs to the family of lentivirus. Lenti is a Latin word. It means slow. HIV causes chronic, persistent, slow and deadly infection. There are two types, HIV-1 and HIV-2. The infection is seen mainly in humans and non-human primates. The infection is spread via sexual route. It can also spread via blood transfusion. HIV establishes chronic persistent infection with gradual onset of symptoms. If the person who is infected with HIV is not receiving any treatment, there is actually no true period of latency. Now coming to virus structure. HIV is a retrovirus with small RNA genome. Normally from DNA to RNA is produced by transcription, and from RNA protein is synthesized by translation. But in case of retrovirus, DNA is produced first from RNA. That is why the word retro. Two copies of genome are contained in a nucleocapsid core. It is surrounded by a lipid bilayer or envelope. This envelope is derived from host cell plasma membrane. Viral genome can be divided into three major parts like GAG, POL and ENV. GAG codes for major structural proteins, whereas POL codes for three enzymes, namely RNA-dependent DNA polymerase. It is also known as reverse transcriptase. This reverse transcriptase also has RNase activity. The second enzyme is protease and the third enzyme is viral integrase. ENV codes for transmembrane envelope proteins. These proteins are important for cellular binding and entry of the virus into the host cell. There are other small genes like TAT, REV, NEF. They codes for regulatory proteins that enhance virion production and also helps in combating host defenses. Understanding of virus life cycle is very important to understand the rationale of HIV treatment. HIV tropism is the property of the virus which determines what kind of human cells will be infected by the virus, and it is determined by envelope protein GP160. This envelope protein targets CD4 receptors present on lymphocytes and macrophages. The binding of HIV with the host cell also requires binding with a co-receptor known as chemokine receptors. These chemokine receptors can be of two types, CCR5 and CXCR4. CCR5 is present on macrophage lineage cells and CXCR4 is present on T lymphocyte lines. A shift from CCR5 to CXCR4 utilization is associated with advancing disease, and phenotypic switch from CCR5 to CXCR4 heralds accelerated loss of CD4 positive helper T cells that leads to increased risk of immunosuppression and opportunistic infection. After binding with the host cell with the help of GP160 protein present on the virus envelope, now the lipid bilayer of the virus fuses with that of the host cell, and this fusion is guided by GP41 domain of the envelope. Now after fusion, viral RNA enters into the cytoplasm along with its enzymes, and it undergoes replication into a short-lived RNA-DNA duplex. The original RNA is then degraded by RNase activity of the reverse transcriptase enzyme. Viral reverse transcriptase enzyme is an error-prone enzyme and it lacks proofreading function, so mutation is very frequent. Virus-derived DNA is then transported into the nucleus. There it is integrated into the host chromosome by the enzyme viral integrase. When the viral particles enters into the host cell, it can remain quiescent. But when activated, viral RNA and proteins are produced. The structural proteins assemble around full-length genomic RNA to form a nucleocapsid. Now this nucleocapsid moves towards the cell surface and bursts through cholesterol-rich lipid rafts. Thereby it gets the envelope. Reverse transcriptase enzyme is also incorporated into the virus particle so that replication can begin immediately after the virus enters a new cell. We have gone through briefly the life cycle of HIV. Now it's time to know how the virus causes disease. Now I have already discussed sexual acquisition is the main mode of infection. If the person is not taking any antiretroviral medication at the time, usually there is a rapid burst of replication and that peaks within 2 to 4 weeks, infecting about 10 to the power 9 cells or more. So there is transient dip in the number of peripheral CD4 positive helper T cells. Then a quasi-steady state is achieved, but eventually host CD4 positive T lymphocyte count falls steadily, accompanied by rise in plasma HIV RNA concentration. When T cell count falls below 200 cells per millimeter cube, then there is increased risk of opportunistic diseases that can lead to death. So successful therapy is based on inhibition of HIV replication. Now coming into very important part of the presentation, that is principles of chemotherapy. Our goal of therapy is to suppress viral replication as much as possible and for as long as possible. And for that matter, we have to use at least 3 drugs simultaneously for the entire duration of the treatment. Now this is very inconvenient for the patient because we need to take more number of medications and few drugs are taken more than single times a day, and these drugs all have various side effects. So it was previously recommended that if CD4 positive T lymphocyte count is more than 350, or if the patient is not having any symptom, then we can delay starting treatment. But large randomized clinical trials have established the fact that if we start treatment early, it will be beneficial for the patient. And the good point is that nowadays we are having newer drugs that can be used once daily and they are also having less side effects. So we should offer treatment to all infected individuals whenever possible. Another advantage of antiretroviral treatment that it helps in preventing transmission of the virus from person to person. As I already mentioned previously, that HIV reverse transcriptase is an error-prone enzyme and it lacks proofreading mechanism. So there is high chance that it will acquire mutation. Again, the virus replicate in tremendous number, so we must start treatment early and continue it lifelong because prolonged drug holidays may allow the virus replicate anew. And what is the expected outcome of initial treatment? The viral load should go undetectable level within 24 weeks of starting of treatment. If viral RNA is less than 50 copies per ml, then it is usually undetectable. Mathematical methods of HIV replication has suggested that we should use 3 drugs concurrently at least, and it will guarantee effective long-term suppression of HIV replication without resistance. One such example is 1 non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor and 2 nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor used at a time. If viral replication continues in spite of ongoing treatment and it comes back to a detectable level from a previously undetectable state, then we can say the antiviral regimen has failed. In this case, we need to replace this antiretroviral regimen with the new one, and choices of drugs in the new regimen depends on what drugs we used previously and viral resistance testing. A new drug addition in a failing regimen makes it functional monotherapy. This should not be done. Again, we need to keep in mind what are the long-term toxicity of the drugs. Lamivudine, emtricitabine, raltegravir, they are preferred because no clinically significant short-term or long-term toxicities. Again, in case of protease inhibitor or non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, we need to keep in mind about the drug-drug interaction because these drugs are either inhibitor or inducer of hepatic enzymes that metabolize other drugs. One important and unique complication of antiretroviral treatment is IRIS. IRIS means immunoreconstitution inflammatory syndrome. As the name suggests, there is reconstitution of immunity due to rising CD4 cell count with antiretroviral treatment. Here, accelerated inflammatory reaction is seen to overt or subclinical opportunistic infections or malignancies. It is usually seen when the patient had low CD4 count at the beginning of the treatment or in an advanced stage of HIV disease. HIV patients who are also suffering from tuberculosis or other mycobacterial diseases, cryptococcosis, viral hepatitis, or pneumocystis pneumonia shows IRIS. This picture is taken from Goodman-Gilman's textbook of pharmacology. Here we can see life cycle of HIV virion, and also we can see where the drugs can act. First, HIV binds with the receptor present on the cell surface, and there is also co-binding so that the virus can enter into the cell. This can be inhibited by drugs like naravirok and enfovirtide. After the nucleocapsid enters into the cell, the viral genetic structure, that is RNA, is released into the cytoplasm, and from that RNA, a DNA is synthesized by enzyme reverse transcriptase. Now we already know that reverse transcriptase enzyme has RNase activity. So the RNA of the virus is disintegrated and the DNA that is synthesized newly is integrated with the host chromosome with the help of enzyme integrase. It happens within the nucleus. Now from the host chromosome, which has been integrated with the viral genomic structure, now synthesizes new viral RNA and proteins. The protein is initially synthesized as large protein, large molecule, and it is cleaved at specific site by the viral protease, thereby giving rise to structural proteins and regulatory proteins. Now the structural proteins and viral genomic RNA assemble within the cytoplasm and move towards cell surface. Then it bursts through lipid-rich pit of cell surface and it gets the envelope. So we can see drugs can target reverse transcription, it can target integrase enzyme as well as protease enzyme of the virus, and these drugs can help in treating HIV. This far we have discussed about life cycle of HIV virion and we have seen where the drugs can act. We have also discussed principle of anti-HIV treatment. Now we are going to discuss about individual groups and individual agents which can be used in HIV treatment. The very important group is reverse transcriptase inhibitor. As the name suggests, it inhibits viral RNA dependent DNA polymerase. So new DNA is not synthesized against viral RNA. It can be of two types, nucleoside and nucleotide, and it can act against both HIV-1 and HIV-2. It is also active against hepatitis B virus and herpes virus. It is a very important group and at least one agent is chosen from this class in HIV regimen. But one important point to consider here is that it can prevent infection of the susceptible cell, but it cannot eradicate the pro-viral DNA that has already integrated with the host chromosome. Nucleoside or nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors are activated first by phosphorylation, then they are incorporated into the nascent pro-viral DNA. We know nucleoside and nucleotides are building blocks of DNA, As these agents we are using are analogous to them, they are incorporated into the proviral DNA, but they lack 3' hydroxyl group. So further elongation of proviral DNA stops. NRTIs have low affinity for human DNA polymerase alpha and DNA polymerase beta, but they can have some inhibition on human DNA polymerase gamma, which is a mitochondrial enzyme. So mitochondrial DNA synthesis can be inhibited by some agents, but emtricitabine, lamivudine and tenofovir have low affinity for DNA polymerase gamma, so largely devoid of mitochondrial toxicity. Side effects seen with these medications are anemia, granulocytopenia, myopathy and peripheral neuropathy. Pancreatitis is also reported with some agents. Pharmacokinetic drug interaction can be explained by organic anion transporter peptide inhibition by these drugs. Zidovudine is a NRTI and it is a thymidine analog. It is activated first by phosphorylation into zidovudine 5' triphosphate and it is incorporated into the proviral DNA. But it lacks 3' hydroxyl group, so further elongation of proviral DNA stops. It prevents mother to child transmission of HIV infection and it was previously recommended for post-exposure prophylaxis in HIV exposed healthcare workers. Resistance to zidovudine can occur and another thymidine analog stavudine shares cross resistance with zidovudine. But a very important fact is that M184V substitution that leads to resistance towards lamivudine or emtricitabine greatly restores sensitivity towards zidovudine. That is why if we use zidovudine and lamivudine together, that ensures greater long-term suppression of plasma HIV RNA level than does zidovudine alone. That is why we should use combination drug in HIV treatment. Parent drug can cross blood-brain barrier easily and it is detected in breast milk, semen and fetal tissue. Side effects like fatigue, malaise, myalgia, nausea, headache, insomnia can resolve within few weeks if we continue the treatment. Skeletal muscle myopathy occurs due to depletion of the mitochondrial DNA. Zidovudine has affinity towards DNA polymerase gamma, which is a mitochondrial enzyme. Hepatic toxicity, though rare but can be fatal. It can also cause bone marrow suppression. Stavudine and zidovudine, both being thymidine analog, compete for intracellular phosphorylation to become active, so they should not be used concurrently. Some important points about stavudine. It is synthetic thymidine analog like zidovudine, so share cross resistance with zidovudine. Like zidovudine, it is more potent in activated cell because thymidine kinase which activate these drugs is S-phase specific. Elimination of the drug is mainly through renal route and active tubular secretion is seen. Important side effects are peripheral neuropathy, so it should be avoided with ethambutol, isoniazid or phenytoin, those drugs which itself can cause peripheral neuropathy. Progressive motor neuropathy is reported with stavudine and it can be similar to Guillain-Barré syndrome, can cause respiratory failure. Acute pancreatitis occurs when combined with didanosine. Lamivudine is a cytidine analog and it is active against HIV-1, HIV-2 and hepatitis B virus. Lamivudine enters into the cell and then activated into lamivudine 5' triphosphate, which is incorporated into the proviral DNA. Lamivudine has less affinity towards human DNA polymerase alpha, beta and gamma. Thereby, it has very low toxicity compared to other NRTIs. Again, lamivudine resistance can restore zidovudine sensitivity and can partially restore tenofovir sensitivity. So, these drugs can be combined together. Dose adjustment is required when creatinine clearance is less than 50 ml per minute and it can cross placenta freely. Abacavir is guanosine analog and it shares cross resistance with all other nucleosides except zidovudine. Main side effect with abacavir is fatal hypersensitivity syndrome. If the patient develops fever, abdominal pain and rash concurrently within 6 weeks of starting abacavir treatment, It necessitates immediate discontinuation of the drug, and once discontinued for hypersensitivity, abacavir must never be restarted. Tenofovir is the only nucleotide analog that is used as reverse transcriptase inhibitor. It is active against both HIV-1 and HIV-2. It can act against hepatitis B virus as well. Along with emtricitabine, it can be used for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and as it has incomplete ribose ring, when it is incorporated into the proviral DNA, further elongation of DNA stops. One interesting fact is that resistance to lamivudine or emtricitabine can restore susceptibility towards tenofovir partially. So these drugs can be used in combination. Important side effects are renal failure and Fanconi syndrome. Plasma concentration of tenofovir can be increased if we add cobicistat or ritonavir along with it. Emtricitabine is one of the least toxic antiretroviral drug. It is chemically related to lamivudine and a cytidine analog. It is active against both HIV-1 and HIV-2. It can act against hepatitis B virus as well. Along with tenofovir, it is recommended for pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV infection, and when there is mutation leading to emtricitabine resistance that can revert back girocodine sensitivity. So these drugs can be used in combination. Didanosine is not a preferred drug anymore due to its toxicity. Side effects like peripheral neuropathy, pancreatitis reported when given along with stavudine. Retinal changes and optic neuritis are other important side effects. It should be given in empty stomach. Now coming to next group of drug, that is non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, NNRTIs. They are non-competitive inhibitors. It means they bind with the enzyme at a site distant from the active site and produces conformational change so that enzymatic activity is reduced. But it acts against HIV-1 only and has no activity against host DNA polymerase. Previously only nevirapine and efavirenz was available, so resistance against any one of them would mean we cannot use NNRTIs in any further regimen. But things have changed nowadays with 5 approved NNRTIs. These drugs are metabolized in liver and they can induce hepatic metabolizing enzymes except gelavirdin. NNRTIs, like any other anti-HIV drug, should not be used alone or should not be added as a single agent on a failing regimen. Serious adverse effects are rashes. Stevens-Johnson syndrome have been reported rarely. It can cause fat accumulation. Nevirapine can cause fatal hepatitis. Like any other NNRTIs, nevirapine is active against HIV-1 only. Previously, single-dose nevirapine was very popular to prevent mother-to-child transmission of HIV infection, but this practice is declining nowadays because more and more pregnant women with HIV infection are being diagnosed early and they are put on multi-drug treatment. Nevirapine can cross placenta easily and found in breast milk as well. It can induce hepatic microsomal enzymes. It can induce its own metabolism as well. Oral contraceptive failure can be expected, so other methods of birth control are advised. Important side effects are rash and pruritus seen in almost 16% of the patients. If we continue treatment with nevirapine, these rashes disappear, but administration of glucocorticoid may cause more severe rash. But we need to be concerned about Stevens-Johnson syndrome and clinical hepatitis. Efavirenz is a popular drug along with tenofovir and emtricitabine because these three drugs can be taken together as a single pill once daily. So it is a very convenient option for the patient. It can also be safely combined along with rifampicin if the patient is also suffering from tuberculosis. Main side effects is psychiatric or central nervous system, followed by rashes, elevated liver enzymes, and increased cholesterol level. Stevens-Johnson syndrome is rare with efavirenz. Rilpivirine has best side effect profile among NNRTIs and it retains efficacy even in case of efavirenz resistance or resistance to other NNRTIs. Side effect is prolongation of QTC interval, so approved dose is 25 mg per day only, and at this dose it is less effective compared to efavirenz if initial viral load is more than 1 lakh copies per ml or CD4 cell count is less than 200 per millimeter cube. To improve bioavailability, it can be given along with fatty meal and should not be given with CYP inducers like rifampicin phenytoin. Ertavirine also retains efficacy when there is resistance against other NNRTIs because of its conformational and positional flexibility in NNRTI binding pocket. It is used only in treatment experienced adults and children over 6 years of age with viral resistant strains to other NNRTIs. Side effects are severe rash including Stevens-Johnson syndrome and toxic epidermal necrolysis. It can induce or inhibit hepatic microsomal enzymes, and dose of maraviroc should be doubled when used along with ertavirine. Delavirine is not preferred nowadays because of its thrice daily dosing schedule, and it shares resistance mutation along with efavirenz and nevirapine. Next important group is HIV protease inhibitors. As I said earlier, HIV protein is synthesized as a large molecule and it is cleaved at specific sites by viral protease enzyme to give rise to structural protein and regulatory proteins. Now this part can be stopped by adding HIV protease inhibitors. These drugs are competitive inhibitors of the enzyme. Most of these drugs are inhibitor of hepatic CYP3A4 enzyme, and ritonavir being the most potent. This property of ritonavir can be utilized by adding small dose of ritonavir along with other protease inhibitors. As a result, dose of other protease inhibitors can be decreased, so we can have less side effects. This can also be achieved by cobicistat. Cobicistat is a ritonavir analog, but it lacks antiretroviral activity. This phenomenon is called boosting. Ritonavir is mainly utilized as pharmacokinetic enhancer. It is not used as sole agent because of its GI toxicity. Small dose of ritonavir that is used as pharmacokinetic enhancer is not known to produce resistance. Main side effects are peripheral and perioral paresthesia and elevated serum cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Examples of protease inhibitors are saquinavir, fosamatinib, lopinavir. Lopinavir, when combined with ritonavir at 4:1 ratio, attended plasma concentration becomes 20:1, and this has considerable and sustained antiretroviral activity even in patients who have failed previous HIV protease inhibitor containing regimens. Adverse effects are elevated total cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Darunavir is effective against both HIV-1 and HIV-2, and at least 3 different mutations are required to confer resistance against darunavir. Darunavir-ritonavir combination increases maraviroc area under curve by 340%, so this combination can be utilized. Side effects are again increased triglyceride and cholesterol level along with hepatotoxicity. Two MCQs from this slide. Indinavir can cause nephrolithiasis, and nelfinavir is the only protease inhibitor whose pharmacokinetic property cannot be boosted by ritonavir. Two drugs available as entry inhibitors are enfovetide and maraviroc. Enfovetide inhibits fusion of the viral envelope and cell membrane that is mediated by glycoprotein 41 of the virus and CD4 of the host cell membrane. Whereas maraviroc is a chemokine receptor antagonist, it binds with the host cell CCR5 receptor and blocks binding of viral GP120 protein with CCR5. Maraviroc is used in patients who are predominantly infected with CCR5 tropic virus. This drug has no activity against CXCR4 tropic virus, so it is less effective in dual tropic virus infection as well. Resistance can occur by two reasons. Number one, by change in tropism, or number two, by mutation of the GP120. It can cause orthostatic hypotension. Enfovirtide is a synthetic peptide and it is active against HIV-1 only. It is a costly drug and needs to be injected twice daily subcutaneously. It retains its activity even in viruses that have become resistant to other antiretroviral agents. So it is approved for treatment only in treatment experienced adults and children over 6 years of age who have evidence of HIV replication despite ongoing antiretroviral treatment. It binds with N36 of glycoprotein 41 and prevent interaction with C34 of the hydrophobic groove. Thereby it prevents fusion of the viral envelope with the host cell membrane. Thereby it prevents infection of the new cell. Side effects are injection site reaction. From viral RNA, DNA is synthesized with the help of reverse transcriptase. Now this DNA is incorporated into the host chromosome so that the virus remain intact into the host cell nucleus for long period even without activity. This integration is done with the help of integrase enzyme. This can be inhibited by integrase inhibitors and the process is called strand transfer, that is inhibited by these enzyme inhibitors. It is done by chelation of magnesium ion present at the enzymatic active site. There is more rapid decline of plasma viral RNA load over the next 3-4 months of therapy compared to other antiretroviral agents, and it is generally better tolerated. Examples of HIV integrase inhibitors are raltegravir, elvitegravir, dolutegravir. Raltegravir is available as once daily oral formulation. Elvitegravir share cross-resistance profile with raltegravir and it is available as single tablet once daily co-formulation with cobicistat, emtricitabine and tenofovir. Dolutegravir also available as single tablet once daily co-formulation with abacavir and lamivudine and it is preferred as starting agents in resourceful countries. Dolutegravir retains its activity against viruses that have become resistant to other antiretroviral agents including integrase inhibitors like raltegravir and elvitegravir. In this final part of this presentation, I would like to summarize by saying that HIV treatment guideline is updated very frequently every 6 months and treatment recommendations are made by comparing various treatment regimens available throughout the world for treatment naive patients. We should also know when to change treatment regimen in a patient who is showing ongoing virus replication despite antiretroviral therapy. While selecting a drug for a new treatment regimen, we should know what are the genotypic and phenotypic resistance profile of the virus, and combination therapy should always be provided to a patient. While choosing a drug in a combination, we should give consideration towards convenience and tolerability so that adherence can be improved. We need to realize this fact that a patient who is infected with HIV must undergo treatment throughout his or her life. Keeping this in mind, we should design our regimen and prescribing rights for these drugs should be limited to those with specialized training only. Thank you for your patience. Good luck.